please translate exactly what I say to him, that the whole world is waiting for his message. We are all prepared and ready for it, and we will wait for him to come to deliver it. First of all, my art, you get tied up into like, you're an eco artist or you're this kind of artist. I don't know what kind of artist I am. In other words, in fact, my associations with researchers are a way of figuring out that path. And one of the paths that you learn is that how to get into an appreciation of information that may affect your life. Is largely held up in data and language that you don't understand. So if the artwork can be some vehicle to transmit not even the understanding, but transmitting the curiosity so that you may seek to understand, that is what I'm into. It's almost like how the action is a catalytic structure that it starts real engagement. Well, one of the first major ones was revival field, and the way I approach working with even Sean Lovejoy was simultaneously the multidimensional fractal scientific, right? The first thing I go to is first you have to have a concept worthy to discuss. And if the concept is worthy to discuss, it's not a random call to waste somebody's time. Knowing that somebody's life has been spent on research, maybe 20, 30, 40 years. So if a concept seems absolutely necessary for some kind of interface, that becomes the dream. So you share dreams. What is your aspiration? Oh, mine is this aspiration, but what is your aspiration? What is your research? And that's where you begin to form a mutual basis of operations of equivalency, and find out where things are not fulfilled, and how you can assist or be part of that fulfillment. Even the conversation about working with television producers in Melrose Place, I've learned from working with scientists. It's not about putting art as a subversive measure. It's really truly the word collaboration comes to play. You do not go into a collaboration with intent to undermine the person you're working with. It is how to elevate the conversation to the degree that it can be articulated, that it's impossible for you to articulate the vision without them. And this is the camaraderie that is essential. Secondly, because if you want to brief, seek advisement to learn their language. I mean, that is immediate first steps. What do I need to read so we can speak and converse about hyperaccumulators? What do I need to know? Well, the art idea it was actually called a confabulation. It was called the Rising Waters Confab. Buster Simpson, an artist from Seattle, different groups, the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation in Captiva, Florida, had gathered people like Greta Ehrlich and different kind of luminaries in the field of the problems that were being faced in the Everglades in Florida and in Captiva specifically. So this Rising Waters confab was to get together and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we could do. And there's many directions and many creative suppositions that came forward, right? Natalie Jeremijenko was there, and so we had a great time thinking about projects, you know, elaborate projects to not only address it, but how to, sometimes it's not about addressing something you can't stop maybe, but how to make work in the light of what will eventually happen to Captiva, Miami, and all the environment. So in the mix was Greta Ehrlich and her conversations about Jens Danielsen and Greenland. And I became immediately convinced that the story of Rising Waters is ultimately about Greenland and its effects, or the Arctic as we know it. This idea that it is the condition of the world, and if it starts failing, or let's not say failing, let's say it transforms because of human impact, which I also am convinced of, then it will have reverberations. It came around to one of the participants, I think, was there, Susanna Sailor Morris, you know, was saying, hey, well, you know, Ed's working on this grant with some Compton Foundation about being in Paris for COP21. I mean, and we have to have something, you know. And then the move was excitable. Maybe we'll bring Jens to speak at COP21. I was just going along with it, but I was just thinking more critically about, okay, if you bring him, then what? And then what? You know, what does that mean to bring this amazing person there that you've told me about, and to give his message, which will probably be on point, and as we know about people from Greenland, pretty much direct. Let's just say this, okay? Let's not fool around. And I appreciated that. And so Gretel wanted it, and I said, okay, let's figure this out. We'll bring him, but if we bring him, and then she said, we'll bring the sled, you know, as a prop. And I said, well, if you bring the sled, then I'll bring the dogs. And so we got the grant, and he got the grant. But then we finally rapidly realized, you know, that's not going to be enough to cover a production in Paris. And then I start fundraising through my sources. And we gather through as many people we can by spreading the word enough really to have a major full-blown production in Paris for a very short film, as you saw. I mean, it was never intended to be long. And we begin those negotiations. I guess you know, that's what starts it out. And then obviously the big issue would be someone's got to build the sled. So I have to learn how we negotiate about sleds. I learned about sleds. I learned about the types of sleds, you know. When Jens saw the sled we eventually came up with, he said, oh, Disco Bay. He knew it came from this area. He knows the type, which is not appropriate for overland travel like he does. The huge work sleds and polar bear hunting, they're all different types. So the education for me became immediate to do research and talking to sled experts, dog experts. I mean, I was calling people from my studio in North Carolina, Egypt, Ramseytown, North Carolina. So you need the hook. And the hook had to be poodles. I said, well, obviously I'm going from the very base level, you know. Like, well, what do I think about this? Paris, okay, it's going to be poodles. No, after finding out in Paris, you know, they don't appreciate poodles. That's a damn hunting dog, you know, right? So, but Americans, so looking at the constructions of our culture, the American culture, in terms of like how you commodify things and put things into perspective, I say, well, it's going to have to be poodles. And we're going to pull it right through the streets of Paris. And then you get the attention that you need. Then it'll be like whatever Jens has to say will be even more poignant because it's the offset. It's like pushing the envelope from this end to humor, what's this, it's funny or it's unusual or it's attention grabbing, and then this incredible message. This dire warning, if not warning, it's just a, you know, prognostication will come forward. Then you have to deal with it. So the basic message did not have, which I think is the more provocative part, which you mentioned, is that we're strong. We have always adapted. We will survive. It was even the night before the disaster started to happen, where I get a call like 3 in the morning, and it's from Tom Osterman, the translator, who says, "We're not coming." I said, "Oh, okay. Really?" He said, "Yep." He said, "We've been traveling for 38 hours, and someone had a heart attack in the plane, and it turned back to Greenland. And so we're not coming to Copenhagen. You know, forget it. These are you have to respect the kings of ice." That's what he said. These are kings. These are not normal. These are celebrities in Greenland. This is the person who crossed from Greenland to Alaska with his friend, with just dogs, with no big crew. He's legendary, you know. It's Jens Danielsen. I said, "Yes, I've read all about Jens." And I said, so I had to pull, using film history, you had to pull the Godfather act. You had to go in and remember that scene when Sonny is killed and the Godfather calls in the Undertaker and says, "When's the last time you came to my house for a cup of coffee?" You know, when the Undertaker wanted a favor or some muscle, and then it's time to call in the favor. So I asked Tom, I said, "Please translate exactly what I say to him, that the whole world is waiting for his message. We are all prepared and ready for it, and we will wait for him to come to deliver it. And if he is the king of ice, then surely in ice, hunting, he has encountered more difficult times. But if he comes here, I will treat him with great generosity and spirit and comfort. He just has to come." And so he said, "Okay, I'll." He calls back. He said, it was funny. He said, "The kings of ice will come." So then the next day is this hard production meeting to say what I have scripted and storyboarded may be hard to shoot. But it was all invention. It was great comradeship and the French at the end of the evening. We're finally breaking out the wine. "Let's toast, we did it. We're going to start 6 in the morning. That's the call time, and shoot the interior scene with the lady, the actress, and her dog. Have the dog trainer. Everything was going to be ready." And so then someone's on the cell phone, and she's screaming and crying. It's weird because the aura in there was shifting as we were celebrating, and it was like, and it seemed incomprehensible what she was saying. She said they are trapped in a theater and they're being killed. So I'm looking at him saying, "Let's stay first concerned about the situation. How's everybody, you know? What's the deal with the production?" He said, certain people, members of the crew, their friends were killed in Petit Cambodia. And so we proceeded, I said, "Let's start shooting the first scene that we could get in the can." And then by the time we finish that, I meet Jens and Mamaret. And they're like, "Oh, it's okay." They're looking at the sled. I'm showing them the sled. But they're like, "Well, through translation, the wives are calling us back. It's too dangerous. It's just not the way Jens had said it. We don't do this to people where we are from. This dynamic of terrorism." And it's well known that, so we have internet, we understand the world, but this is not what people do. What is this? And I think that maybe around that time is when I told the producer again, I don't know what we're going to do. He was looking for direction, obviously, and telling me we have no film. It's done. And that's when I say, essentially searching for the words, right? You just say, well, when this happens, the world loses. No one wins. And if we don't exercise our capacity capacity to create, then we just lose more. So as an artist, I felt that is the only response I know. I don't know any other response. You have to create in the wake of extreme tragedy or horror, because that is even if it's short-lived or delusional, this is what can be accomplished.